My beloved sisters and brothers, I rise today with a trembling voice but a steady heart, because truth does not always come dressed in silk. Sometimes it walks into our lives like a storm, shaking loose the illusions we have built to survive. This is that truth you must stop forgiving what keeps cutting you. We are taught from the cradle kind to be patient, to turn the other cheek. And yes, compassion is holy. But compassion without wisdom is a cage. When you keep extending grace to the hand that strikes you, you are not practicing love. You are practicing self-abandonment. And self-abandonment is not noble. It is a slow death. Hear me clearly, your pain is evidence of your humanity. It is not a stain to be scrubbed away. It is a signal, a dark warning that someone somewhere is trespassing upon your spirit. Stop calling it loyalty. Stop calling it forgiveness. Call it what it is, surrender of your own sacred ground. There is a season for mercy and there is a season for distance. Some doors you must close even if the knocking never stops. Some bridges you must burn even if the flames light up the night. You do not owe your oppressor your silence, your smile, or your second chance. You owe yourself your safety, your dignity, and your peace. And when you rise up, trembling but determined, to draw the line, you are not cruel, you are courageous. You are the keeper of your own soul. That is where true forgiveness begins, not in excusing the wound, but in refusing to let it keep happening. That is how you honor yourself. So I say to you now, with love and urgency, stop forgiving what hurt you. Stop watering the weeds that choke your garden. Stop apologizing for finally saying, enough. And watch how, once you claim your worth, your heart begins to heal, not in the shadows of pain, but in the sunlight of freedom. You can only free yourself from what you can see. Too often, the ache inside us is not from a single blow, but from the slow, quiet erosion of our worth. A cutting word said today, a dismissive glance tomorrow, a promise broken again and again and again. It is easy to look at each moment by itself and think, it's not so bad. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe I'm overreacting. But pain, like water, carves its path over time. A single drop does not shape the stone. The repetition does. Recognizing the pattern of harm is the first act of liberation, because it brings light to what thrives in the dark. It begins with noticing. Noticing when your body stiffens in a room where you should feel safe. Noticing the tightness in your chest when a certain name appears on your phone, noticing how your laughter changes, how it becomes smaller, how it begins to sound like an apology. The world will tell you that you must forgive to be good, that you must be patient to be strong. But goodness without boundaries is exploitation. Patience without end is a slow unraveling of your soul. You cannot stop what you will not name. You cannot heal from what you refuse to see. To recognize a pattern of harm is not an accusation. It is an act of self-respect. It is looking at the full tapestry, not just one thread. Ask yourself, how do I feel after I have been with this person? Lighter or heavier? Sin or erased? Do my dreams expand or shrink when they are near? Sometimes the harm wears a smile, speaks softly, and says it loves you. Sometimes the harm calls itself family, calls itself friendship, calls itself duty. But your spirit knows the truth. It records every slight, every betrayal, every moment when you had to dim your light to keep someone else comfortable. And if you listen, your spirit will tell you something is wrong here. When you begin to see the pattern, you may also begin to doubt yourself. That is normal. Harm often hides behind confusion. It wants you uncertain so that you stay. It wants you silent so that it can continue. But clarity is your birthright. And clarity begins with gathering the evidence of your own experience. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Say, this happened. And then it happened again. In the echo of your own words, you will hear the truth ringing clear. That is the sound of your power returning to you. There is a sorrow that comes with seeing. You may realize that someone you love has been a source of pain. You may realize that a place you once called home has been a battlefield. Grieve that. Allow the grief to come. Grief is not weakness. Grief is the sign that you are awake, that your heart is still tender, that you have not turned to stone. But do not let grief paralyze you. Let it guide you. Let it teach you where the boundaries must be drawn. Recognition is not revenge, it is not bitterness. It is the moment you take off the blindfold and stand in the truth of your own life. You may still choose to forgive, you may still choose compassion, but you will choose from a place of clarity, not compulsion. You will see the hand that hurt you, and you will decide with a steady voice whether it will have access to you again. That decision, born from recognition, is the root of freedom. As you practice seeing, you may also begin to see the patterns in yourself, the ways you have tolerated, excused, minimized. Do not shame yourself for that. You did what you had to do to survive. You learned to call harm by softer names because survival required it, but survival is not living. Recognizing the pattern of harm is your soul's announcement that it is ready to live, not just endure. Think of a garden. If weeds appear one by one, they seem harmless. But left unchecked, they choke the flowers, steal the nutrients, block the sun. Only when you step back and look at the whole bed do you see how much has been overtaken. That is what it is to recognize harm. You are stepping back, surveying the garden of your life, and saying, "This does not belong here. This will not feed me. This must be cleared for me to grow." There is nothing selfish about this. It is sacred work. It is your right. When you learn to recognize the pattern, you also learn to trust yourself again. That trust is a compass. It will guide you away from what diminishes you and toward what nurtures you. You will begin to see warning signs earlier. You will begin to listen to the quiet voice inside that whispers, "Pay attention. This feels familiar." And instead of silencing that voice, you will honor it. You will pause. You will step back. You will choose differently. That is how cycles are broken. And though the work is hard, it is also beautiful. Because each time you see clearly, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You stand a little taller. You breathe a little deeper. You stop apologizing for noticing. Stop apologizing for protecting yourself. Stop apologizing for being awake. Recognition becomes the doorway to self-respect. And self-respect becomes the foundation for every healthy choice you will make from this moment forward. You deserve a life where your spirit is not under siege. You deserve to wake up without dread, to speak without fear, to love without losing yourself. It begins by looking plainly at what has been hidden and telling the truth. That is the first brave, necessary step. Recognition is not the end of the journey, but without it, no healing can truly begin. When you name the harm, you stop normalizing it. When you see the pattern, you stop living inside it. And when you stop living inside it, you start living as who you were always meant to be. The scars you carry are not a sign of your failure. They are evidence of your survival. Each wound you have endured, whether visible on your skin or hidden deep in your heart, holds a story that shaped you. But too many of us are taught to treat our pain as something shameful, to cover it quickly, to pretend it never happened. We brush it off with brittle smiles. We say we are fine, we say it was nothing. Yet the body remembers, the heart remembers. The soul keeps the ledger of every time you were hurt and every time you were silent about it. To honor your own wounds is to stop erasing yourself. It is to pause, to look with clear eyes at what has been done to you, and to bow to your own endurance. This act is not self-pity. It is not wallowing. It is a reclamation of your story. When you deny your pain, you deny the truth of your own life. And when you deny your truth long enough, you begin to disappear. You become a stranger to yourself, moving through your days in a kind of numbness. Honoring your wounds is the opposite of that numbness. It is an awakening. It is saying, "This happened. It mattered. I matter." It is giving your past the dignity of being named and felt, so that it no longer has to claw for your attention in the dark. There is courage in sitting with what hurts. It is easier to distract yourself, easier to stay busy, easier to bury the memory under work or noise or new relationships. But every time you pause and let yourself feel, you are taking back power from what harmed you. You are saying, "You do not get to dictate how I heal." That decision begins with tenderness toward yourself, noticing where you are sore, noticing where you still bleed. Noticing what triggers you, not as a way to condemn yourself, but as a way to understand the terrain of your own soul. This is sacred attention. It is the attention you may have longed for from others, but never received. Now you give it to yourself. When you honor your wounds, you also honor the younger versions of yourself who endured them. You look back at that child, that teenager, that younger adult, and you say, I see you. I believe you. I am sorry you went through that. I am proud of you for surviving. This is an act of reparenting your own spirit. It fills the empty places with compassion. It untangles the old knots of self-blame. It reminds you that what was done to you was not your fault, and that your pain was real even if others dismissed it. There will be grief in this process. Sometimes the grief is for the event itself, sometimes for the time you lost, sometimes for the version of yourself you had to kill off in order to endure. Let that grief come. Let it move through you like a tide. Grief is the language of healing. It washes the debris from your wounds so new tissue can form. If tears rise, let them fall. If rage rises, let it burn safely until it cools. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of life returning to a place that has been frozen. Honoring your wounds also means giving them the space to mend without rushing them. We live in a culture of quick fixes and instant turnarounds. But some injuries take a long time to heal. You would not scold a broken bone for not mending in a week. In the same way, do not scold your heart for needing time. Offer it patience, offer it protection. Offer it whatever care you would offer a dear friend who came to you trembling and in pain. This self-compassion is not indulgence. It is maintenance of your humanity. As you practice this, something begins to shift. The wound no longer defines you, but it does instruct you. It teaches you about your values, your limits, your resilience. You begin to develop a kind of X-ray vision for what is healthy and what is not. You notice sooner when someone's behavior echoes an old injury. You know how to say no, how to step back, how to choose differently. This wisdom is a direct gift from your pain. By honoring it, you transmute it into strength. Sometimes you will encounter people who tell you to get over it or move on. They may be uncomfortable with your honesty. They may be invested in the old story where you stayed quiet. Do not let their discomfort become your muzzle. Moving on is not the same as healing. Healing requires presence. It requires looking directly at what you've been through and giving it the respect of acknowledgement. Only then does it loosen its grip. Only then can you truly move forward without dragging the weight behind you. When you honor your wounds, you also create a kind of map for others. Your courage gives permission. Your honesty becomes a lantern. Someone else still trapped in silence may see you and think, if they can face it, maybe I can too. In this way, your private act of self-respect becomes a public act of quiet leadership. You begin to change the air around you. You normalize self-care, boundaries, truth-telling, and the cycles of harm begin to break not just in your life, but in the lives of those who witness you. Above all, honoring your wounds is about choosing to treat yourself as worthy of care. It is about replacing shame with dignity. It is about telling your own story with your own voice and refusing to let it be rewritten by those who hurt you. You survived. You are still here. And your pain, once acknowledged, can become the soil where new life grows. You are not your wounds, but they are part of your landscape. And when you honor them, you reclaim the power to shape what grows there next. There comes a time in every life when the line between kindness and surrender begins to blur. You give, and still you are asked for more. You forgive, and still the same harm finds its way back to your door. In that quiet moment, when your hands are empty and your heart feels thin, you begin to understand a truth that was always there. The limits you draw are not punishments for others. They are protections for yourself. They are the walls of a temple, the perimeter of a garden, the edge of a shoreline. They are sacred. We are taught early to say yes. Yes to helping. Yes to listening. Yes to bending ourselves into shapes that fit someone else's needs. And at first it feels virtuous. It feels like love. But slowly you begin to notice the toll. You start waking up tired from nothing but conversation. You start doubting your own perceptions. You find yourself apologizing for things you did not do. This is what it looks like when boundaries are eroded. Without them, even the strongest soul begins to lose its outline. To treat your boundaries as sacred is to treat your life as sacred. It is to recognize that you are a whole being with needs, with limits, with a right to peace. It is to accept that you cannot be all things to all people and still be yourself. When you start saying no, you are not becoming cold, you are becoming clear. You are saying, here is where I end and you begin. You are saying, I will not sacrifice my dignity to keep your comfort. This clarity may feel foreign at first, but it is a language your spirit has been waiting for you to speak. Setting boundaries often brings guilt. You will be told you are selfish, you are difficult, you are unkind. But listen carefully to the ones who say this. They are often the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. They are not used to you protecting your time, your energy, your heart. Their protest is not proof that you are wrong. It is proof that the system you are in is shifting. Hold steady, breathe. Remember that every time you honor your limits, you teach others how to treat you, and you teach yourself that your well-being matters. There is also an inner voice you must confront. The one that whispers, if I draw the line, I will lose them. If I draw the line, I will be alone. That voice comes from old fears. It remembers times when you were punished for saying no. It remembers the sting of rejection. Offer that voice compassion but not control. Remind it that the people who truly care for you will adapt to your boundaries. They will not punish you for having them. And if someone walks away because you honored yourself, it is a sign they were attached to your compliance, not your soul. Treat your boundaries as living things. They may change with time, with circumstances, with your own growth. What felt acceptable once may not feel acceptable now. That is not inconsistency, that is evolution. Just as a river carves a new path, your boundaries shift as you learn more about who you are. Give yourself permission to redraw them. You owe no one an apology for changing the rules of access to your life when you change. One of the most powerful acts you can do is to articulate your limits out loud, not in anger, but in steadiness. I will not discuss that topic. I cannot meet you at that time. I will leave if you speak to me that way. These are small sentences, but they are spells. They draw invisible lines in the air. They tell your nervous system, I am safe, I am in charge. Each time you speak them, your confidence grows. Each time you follow through, you teach yourself that your words have weight. There is beauty in the life that grows behind strong boundaries. It is quieter, clearer. Your relationships become rooted in respect rather than obligation. You have more room for joy, for creativity, for rest. You begin to show up to others not out of duty but out of choice. That choice is the purest form of love you can offer. It is no longer extracted from you. It flows freely because you are not depleted. Honoring your boundaries also means honoring the boundaries of others. When you learn to say no, you also learn to hear no. You stop taking it as rejection and start taking it as truth. This mutual respect creates relationships where both people can breathe. It ends the tug of war where one person's needs always outweigh the others. It allows connection without control. Sometimes drawing a boundary will feel like a small death. A friendship may fade. A family member may retreat. A partner may rage. This loss is real. Mourn it if you need to. But remember that what you are losing is not love. Love can survive boundaries. What you are losing is the illusion that you must be everything to everyone in order to be worthy. In the space that opens up, something else can grow: self-respect, self-trust, authentic connection. You are the keeper of your own gate. No one else will do this for you. You are the one who decides what enters, what stays, what must go. This is not cruelty, it is stewardship. Just as a caretaker protects a sacred site from erosion, you protect your life from forces that would drain it. And as you do, you will find that the people who truly belong will honor the gate, knock softly, and thank you for letting them in. Boundaries are not walls that shut out love. They are doors that open only to what is good for you. They are the shape of your freedom. They are the way you tell the world, I am not an endless resource. I am a human being, whole and worthy. When you begin to live this way, you step into a steadier, deeper power. A power that does not shout but stands. It is from this place of standing that real compassion can flow, because you are no longer giving from your wounds, but from your wholeness. That is why boundaries are sacred. They are the quiet architecture of a life that honors itself. People will tell you that time heals all wounds, as if the clock alone is medicine. They will urge you to let go, to move on, to stop talking about it. They will mistake silence for strength and forgetting for freedom. But you know somewhere in your bones that this is not true. The past does not vanish just because you turn your face away from it. Healing does not mean erasing. Healing means learning to live with what happened without letting it poison the life you are still meant to live. It is not a blank page. It is a page written on in ink. And you are learning how to read it without breaking. For a long time you may try to forget. You will push the memories into a box, shove it to the back of the closet, and tell yourself it's over. And for a while it might seem to work. You smile at the right times. You get on with your life. But in quiet moments the box rattles. A smell, a sound, a word can pry it open, and suddenly you are back in the old pain, as if no time has passed. This is not a failure on your part. This is your soul telling you it wants more than forgetting. It wants understanding. It wants integration. It wants you to walk back into that room. Gather the parts of yourself that were left there and bring them home. Healing begins when you stop demanding that you forget. When you say to yourself, yes, it happened. Yes, it shaped me. And yes, I can still build something beautiful from here. This is a gentle, courageous act. It allows you to hold the truth without being crushed by it. It allows you to make space for the wound, not as a shrine to your suffering, but as evidence of your survival. You stop running from your own story and start walking through it with open eyes. This is the beginning of real freedom. The past is like a river. You cannot stand in it without getting wet, but you also cannot live your whole life submerged. Healing means learning how to step in and out. Some days you will stand on the bank and simply watch. Some days you will wade in up to your knees. Some days you will float. And gradually you will notice that the current does not pull you under the way it once did. You can enter it, feel it, and step back onto solid ground. The river is still there, but it no longer carries you away. This process is slow and often uncomfortable. There will be times when you think you are done, only to be surprised by a wave of grief or anger. Do not see this as a setback. It is a spiral. Each time you revisit the memory, you do so with a little more strength, a little more distance, a little more compassion for yourself. Over time, the sharp edges soften. You may never love what happened, but you will learn not to fear it. That is healing. When you refuse to forget, you also keep hold of the lessons. Pain can be a harsh teacher, but it is a teacher nonetheless. It shows you what you value, what you need, what you will no longer accept. It gives you empathy for the struggles of others. It sharpens your instincts. Forgetting discards this wisdom. Remembering with clarity lets you carry the wisdom without carrying the wound open and raw. There will be people who don't understand this. They will say you are living in the past, that you are too sensitive, that you need to let it go. But they cannot see what you are doing. They cannot see how carefully you are gathering your memories, examining them, removing the shame that was never yours, returning responsibility to those who harmed you. They cannot see how you are stitching your own story back together. They only see that you are still talking about it. Ignore their impatience. Healing is not a performance for others. It is the slow restoration of your own soul. You may notice as you heal that the memories become less jagged. They do not disappear, but they no longer hijack you. You can think of them without shaking. You can speak of them without breaking. You can hold them like a stone in your hand instead of feeling them like a knife in your chest. This is the quiet transformation that happens when you stop trying to forget and start trying to integrate. Healing also means making room for joy alongside the memory of pain. Not replacing it, not covering it, but holding both at once. The day you find yourself laughing deeply again, loving fully again, dreaming without fear again, that is not betrayal of your past self. That is proof of your resilience. You are not forgetting, you are living. You are showing the wound it does not have the power to define every inch of your life. Think of a tree that has been struck by lightning. The scar remains in the bark, twisting and dark. But the tree still grows, it still puts out leaves, still shelters birds, still bears fruit. The mark is part of its history, but not the sum of its existence. So it is with you, the mark will not disappear. But you are not the mark, you are the whole tree. Roots, trunk, branches, skyward reach. Healing is tending to yourself so that even with the scar you thrive. This is why healing is not forgetting. Forgetting tries to erase the wound, and with it erases your own story. Healing claims the wound as part of your truth and transforms your relationship to it. It does not demand that you love what hurt you, only that you love yourself enough to integrate it. You remember, and you still move forward. You remember, and you still open your heart to life. You remember, and you still become more than what happened to you. That is the quiet miracle of healing. There comes a moment when the hunger for peace with someone else collides with the hunger for peace within yourself. You have tried to meet them halfway. You have bent and softened, apologized and explained, waited and hoped. You have walked back over the same broken ground again and again, thinking that if you are patient enough, humble enough, loving enough, the hurt will end. And still the same patterns return. In that moment, you begin to see that reconciliation at any cost is not peace, it is self-erasure. It is choosing their comfort over your dignity. Real peace cannot grow from a place where you are constantly betraying yourself. We are raised to believe that relationships must be preserved at all costs, that family must always come first, that love means staying no matter what. We are praised for mending fences, for forgiving, for keeping the circle unbroken. But no one tells us about the cost of this constant stitching. No one tells us that sometimes the thread is made from our own skin. To choose self-respect over reconciliation is to choose to stop bleeding for the sake of appearances. It is to step out of the role of savior and back into the role of caretaker for your own soul. This choice is not born of bitterness. It is born of clarity. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can wish them well and still refuse to share your life with them. You can understand their pain and still protect yourself from it. Forgiveness may be a gift you give for your own freedom, but reconciliation is a gift that requires both hearts to be willing. If the other heart remains closed, unchanged, or harmful, then reconciliation is not a bridge but a trap. Choosing self-respect is choosing not to be lured back into harm by the idea of being good. The pull toward reconciliation is powerful. It carries the promise of harmony, of a return to how things used to be. But you must ask yourself, how were things really? Did you feel safe? Did you feel seen? Or did you learn to shrink, to mute your needs, to accept less than you deserved? When you tell yourself you miss the relationship, sometimes what you are missing is the dream of what it could have been, not the reality of what it was. Self-respect begins when you stop confusing the two. This path is not easy. When you choose self-respect over reconciliation, you will be called selfish, ungrateful, cold. People will try to rewrite the story, to cast you as the villain, because you will no longer play the part of the silent sufferer. Stand steady. Remember that their disapproval does not mean you are wrong. It means the old script is breaking. In time, the noise around you will fade, but the quiet inside you will grow. That quiet is not emptiness. It is space for your true self to breathe. Part of this work is mourning. You may grieve the person, the family, the community you hoped for but did not have. You may grieve the version of yourself who kept trying, who believed if you just loved harder it would all work out. Grief is natural. It is the price of telling yourself the truth. Allow it. Let it wash through you. And when it passes, notice what remains: a steadier heart, a clearer mind, a life no longer built on begging for scraps of respect. Choosing self-respect also means trusting your own perception. Harm often hides in subtlety. It tells you you're imagining things. It tells you you're too sensitive. It tells you to be the bigger person. But your body knows the truth. It records every time you left an interaction feeling small, every time you gave in to avoid conflict. When you finally listen to it, you may hear a whisper, "No more." That whisper is the beginning of your freedom. Honor it. Self-respect will change your relationships. Some will end, some will shift. Some may, after time and genuine change, become healthier. But you will no longer measure your worth by whether someone comes back or not. You will measure it by how true you have been to yourself. This is not a lonely path, though it may feel lonely at first. In the space created by your no, new connections will grow, ones based on mutual respect rather than your endless giving. You will discover people who do not need you to diminish yourself in order to love you. It helps to remember that reconciliation is not always possible, and it is not always right. Some damage cannot be undone, some trust cannot be rebuilt, some dynamics are too entrenched to change. Accepting this is not cynicism. It is wisdom. It frees you from the illusion that your worth depends on someone else's willingness to meet you in your wholeness. It allows you to let go of what is not for you without hatred, without revenge, simply with the quiet conviction that your life is yours to protect. As you walk this path, you may feel both stronger and softer at once. Stronger because you are no longer bending yourself into shapes that hurt. Softer because you have compassion for the person you once were, the one who kept trying, who believed reconciliation was the only form of love. You can bless that person and let them rest. You can bless the ones you've left behind without inviting them back in. You can bless your own future, knowing it will be built on the solid ground of self-respect. To choose self-respect over reconciliation is to choose truth over illusion, integrity over appearance, freedom over familiarity. It is not about winning or losing. It is about standing. It is about saying, I will not sacrifice my dignity for the sake of peace that isn't real. From this stance, you can still love. You can still forgive, but you no longer confuse love with surrender. And in that clarity, you become whole. The world may not applaud, but your spirit will exhale. That exhale is the sound of your life returning to you. Pain arrives in many disguises. Sometimes it is sudden, a shattering blow that splits your life into before and after. Sometimes it is slow and quiet, a daily erosion that wears grooves into your heart. However it comes, it always feels like a thief. It steals your sense of safety, your ease, your trust. But hidden inside every wound is a seed, a possibility. You cannot prevent every hurt, but you can decide what you will build from it. You can choose to let it harden you into bitterness, or you can choose to let it deepen you into wisdom. This is what it means to transform pain into strength. At first, this idea may feel impossible. When you are in the middle of the storm, all you can do is cling to something and pray you survive. You cannot see the lesson. You cannot see the gift. You only feel the loss. That is natural. Transformation does not happen while the wound is still open. It begins quietly after the bleeding stops, when you are able to breathe again and look around at what remains. In that stillness, you may sense a flicker of something you did not have before. A fierceness, a tenderness, a deeper understanding of yourself. It is small at first, like an ember. But if you protect it, it can become a fire. This fire does not erase the past. It does not make what happened right. It does not demand that you be grateful for the harm. Transformation is not about pretending the pain was good. It is about refusing to let the pain have the last word. You take what was meant to break you, and you turn it into a tool for building. You take the energy of your grief, your anger, your outrage, and you redirect it toward creating a life that honors you. In this way, the wound becomes a doorway. You begin by telling the truth about what happened, naming it, feeling it, sitting with it. This is the foundation. If you skip this step and rush to be strong, you build your strength on denial and it will collapse. Real strength grows from honesty. Once you have faced the reality of your pain, you can start to ask different questions. What has this experience taught me about what I need, about what I value, about what I will never accept again? What hidden abilities surfaced in me when I had no choice but to endure? Did I discover patience, courage, empathy, boundaries, resilience? These are the treasures pain leaves behind when you dare to sift through its rubble. Over time, you start to notice changes in yourself. Maybe your compassion for others has expanded. Maybe you recognize warning signs sooner. Maybe your voice is stronger, your now is clearer, your yes is freer. These shifts are not accidental. They are the shape your strength is taking. You are not the same person you were before the hurt, but that does not have to be a tragedy. It can be a kind of rebirth. The old version of you did not know what you know now. This new version carries scars, but also carries light. Transforming pain into strength is not a solitary process. Along the way, you may find helpers, a friend, a mentor, a therapist, a book, a community. Accept their support. Strength does not mean isolation. It means you allow yourself to be witnessed in your healing, to be held when you are weary, to be reminded of your worth when you forget. This openness does not make you weak. It is part of the alchemy. You let others pour water on your ember until it can burn steadily on its own. As your strength grows, you may feel an impulse to use it for something larger than yourself. Many of the most powerful healers, artists, teachers, and leaders began with a wound. They did not set out to be inspiring. They simply refused to let their pain go to waste. They turned it into songs, stories, movements, compassion. You do not have to do something grand. Even the quietest transformation ripples outward. When you speak honestly, when you model healthy choices, when you treat yourself with dignity, you show others that their pain can also be transformed. Your life becomes a kind of map. There will still be days when the hurt feels heavy, when the memories sting. Transformation is not a straight line. Some mornings you will feel strong. Some mornings you will feel fragile. Do not use those fragile days as evidence you are failing. They are part of the process. Strength is not the absence of pain. It is the capacity to carry your story without being crushed by it. It is the ability to keep your heart open without letting everything spill out. It is the quiet steadiness that allows you to keep moving even when the road is steep. Eventually, you may look back and realize that the very thing you thought would end you has, in some mysterious way, expanded you. You may see how your boundaries grew from betrayal, how your empathy grew from loneliness, how your courage grew from fear. You would not have chosen the pain, but you can choose what to do with it now. That choice is the essence of freedom. It is the moment you reclaim authorship of your life. Transforming pain into strength is not a single act, but an ongoing practice. Each day you decide again, I will not let this wound define me. I will not let it close me. I will not let it make me smaller. Instead, I will use it as a reminder of my resilience, as a source of clarity, as a well of compassion. I will let it teach me how to stand tall, how to speak, how to love myself and others without losing myself. In this way, your pain becomes a teacher rather than a jailer. And you, who once felt like a victim of circumstance, become the alchemist of your own life. One day you will tell your story and notice that your voice does not shake. One day you will meet someone who is where you once were and offer them a hand, a word, a light. One day you will stand in a life you built from the rubble and realize that what tried to destroy you has instead revealed your strength. That is the quiet miracle of transformation. Pain enters as an intruder and leaves as a teacher. And you standing in the center of it all are proof that even the deepest wound can become the ground from which your power grows. You have walked with me through shadowed rooms today, through the naming of harm, the honoring of wounds, the sanctity of boundaries, the truth that healing does not mean forgetting, the courage of self-respect over reconciliation, and the quiet alchemy of transforming pain into strength. Each of these is not just an idea, it is a practice, a way of standing in the world. Together they form a path out of self-abandonment and into self-honoring. And this is the heart of it. Your life is not a courtroom where you must argue for the right to protect yourself. It is a garden entrusted to your care. You decide what is planted. You decide what is uprooted. You decide who may walk its paths. You are not selfish for tending it. You are not cruel for closing the gate. You are wise. You are necessary. You are worthy. Do not wait for someone else to give you permission to be whole. Do not wait for the pain to vanish before you start living. Begin now, even with trembling hands, to choose yourself, to see clearly, to speak honestly, to draw the line, to heal in truth, to turn every scar into a testament of survival, every heartbreak into a doorway to strength. This is how you stop forgiving what hurts you. This is how you reclaim your power. This is how you rise. And when you rise, you do more than save yourself. You change the air around you. You become a living proof that self-respect is not the opposite of love, but its foundation. You show the next soul, still lost in the dark, that there is a way out. And that is the real legacy of a life that has learned to honor itself, not that you never fell, but that you stood back up and turned the pain into something holy.